Welcome to Sophia's Schoolhouse. Today, we are going to continue our studies on metadata by exploring how institutions like the Georgia Historical Society use metadata to make their archival collections more accessible. In other words, how we use metadata to make it easier for you to find what you're looking for here. Knowing how libraries and archives use metadata will help make us better researchers. Before we go any further, let's take a look at two definitions. In our first episode on metadata, we learned that the simplest definition for metadata is data about data. For a much more in-depth look at metadata, be sure to watch the first episode of That's So Meta on Sophia's Schoolhouse blog or on the Georgia Historical Society SchoolTube or YouTube channel. Today we'll be looking at how metadata helps us find archival collections. An archival collection is a group of historical materials, photographs, letters, artifacts, that relate to a particular individual, family, or organization. For example, in our second episode of Sophia's Schoolhouse, we looked at Girl Scout founder Juliet Gordon Lowe's Girl Scout badges. Now, those badges were a part of an archival collection here at the Georgia Historical Society called the Gordon Family Papers. All right, now that we have those two definitions down, we can look more into how metadata helps us find things at libraries and archives. So how does the Georgia Historical Society use metadata? We use metadata to describe our collections, making them easier to find. For example, let's say you come to the Georgia Historical Society Research Center to learn more about the American Revolution. You might start in our main collection to find secondary sources about the topic. Now, you probably wouldn't want to look at every single bookshelf and scan every single title of book to find what you want. Instead, you would use our online catalog to do a keyword search for the American Revolution. Through the power of metadata, you would see a whole list of books on the topic. Once you find something you want to check out, like maybe this book on the life of General Washington, you would look at its call number, and that piece of metadata would help you find its location on the shelf. I'm sure you have a similar system at your school's media center or local library. None of it would be possible without metadata. At the Georgia Historical Society, our collection has more than just books. We also have archival material, and we use metadata to make it possible for researchers to find what they're looking for in our archives. Let's take this photograph, for example.
Without knowing anything about this image other than what we can see with our own eyes, let's try to work backwards and come up with some metadata to help us find the full record on the GHS image catalog. Let's start by trying to figure out what kind of image this is. It doesn't look like a painting to me, or a print, or a page out of a book or anything like that. I think we can safely guess that this is a photograph. What do we see in the photograph that might help us in our search? Well, we clearly see there's a group of people in the photograph. And where are those people standing? I see some machinery in the background. Could this be a factory of some kind? What about any clues as to the date of this photograph? It looks a little faded in color to me, and you can tell by the way the people are dressed that it's not a modern image. There are men in suits and women in dresses and lots of hats. That makes me guess this is maybe in the 1930s or 1920s. Let's see if we did a good job coming up with some metadata by looking on the digital image catalog. Let's see how close we came to guessing correct metadata about the photograph. We'll use advanced search to try to limit our results. Now we decided we thought the image was a photograph, so let's limit our search to photos. We saw a group of people, and we guessed that they might be in a factory. And we thought that maybe the image was taken in 1920s or 1930s. Look at that. Our photograph is the second result. Turns out this photograph was taken in 1933 at Dr. Hurdy's experimental paper lab in Atlanta, Georgia. Now we can see how metadata helped us find this image. Some of the description terms archivists used to describe this photograph included factory and group portrait. When we used the terms group and factory, it led us right here. Our guesses about the time period were right on, and the date this photograph was taken is a piece of metadata that was in the record, 1933. Here's some additional metadata. People associated with the photograph, in this case, the photographers, the place where the photography studio was, and subject terms. These help people do keyword searches. You can also see the size of the photograph and the types of tools that were used in creating it.
Are you beginning to see how metadata helps with historical research? In future episodes, we'll dig deeper into how libraries and archives across the country use metadata and get some great tips on how to be effective researchers.